Back. Well, the prop people were a little bit slow here between.
You got to do it all.
This is a specialty bowl that John really wanted to show you, which is pretty cool. But we're going to spend a little bit more time on this. This is just a little teaser. We're
Okay.
going to show. We'll show this a little bit more a little later on in the show.
Okay.
But this is a fantastic solid surface bowl. Why don't we get this one out of the way?
Okay. Where do you want to go with it?
Oh, it's right under here.
Okay.
Now, what we wanted to take some time is talk about undermounting bowls. And there are quite a few different ways to do it. This is one method, and this is a method that works extraordinarily well, especially in the area of cast iron, because cast iron bowls weigh a great amount, and a lot of fabricators, when they have to mount them, will typically build a framework. I know we used to actually use 2x4s and make a frame where we had legs that came up. Once we got the bowl in position, we would raise our framework up, pin the bowl,
put the legs in,
and then screw it right into the wall
of
the cabinet to carry it, because we wanted to make it to where if we ever had to remove the bowl, all we had to do is take the legs out, and we could get the bowl out. We had that possibility.
Now this, go ahead.
No, you're doing fine.
This setup, this setup we put in for the stainless steel bowl that we have today, and what's a little bit unique about this is that up until recently, these rails were only manufactured straight. So the offset bowls were a problem to undermount using a method like this. So this is actually set up. Now you wouldn't necessarily mount a stainless steel bowl this way. You could.
A couple things real quick before you pop that up there. Is one, a couple things that are really interesting about this method is you have these bars that overlap, so structurally they're very strong.
Right.
The weight is actually really carried by the side wall of your cabinets, by the way the bracketing is engineered.
Right. I think we should also point out that this is not the way this is installed. We built this raised up so that you could see all of this mechanism.
Correct.
And it's just sitting on top of this vanity. So don't
try
to figure out how you have to build your cabinets to do this.
That's right.
And these here, this area here would be routed in.
Just to drop it in.
Yeah, just to drop it in flush, exactly.
That way, if you have buildup or secondary buildup, it doesn't hit this and create a bump in the countertop at all. Anyway, now this is an ingenious system. One, because it's extraordinarily strong.
Right.
I'd almost think I could. Well, I don't think I'd stand on it.
Well, but broadcast over the whole thing,
and
it would.
Really, your support.
And no,
really
I wouldn't
is
stand on it
ends.
either. So.
No, but I thought about it for a moment because that's pretty strong. We can usually get you to do stuff like that. The system is very simple. The nut here turns down from below, so you can actually start with this a little bit low. Probably the simplest way to do it would actually have the sink in place, get your countertop in place with the sink down probably about 1/8 of an inch. You could put the silicone in, inject it in sideways all the way around, then take and begin to raise it up by...
And you could actually do it with a nut driver on a cordless drill.
Exactly, and you could run it right up.
Right, and you'd want to just snug them all the way around, kind of like you were torquing down an engine block or something like that. Just go back and forth and put them right in. So let's go ahead and just put this up. Actually, this goes to the back side.
And now, and the key here is, again, notice the irregular shape of the bowl.
Right.
But because of the way this bracket's designed, we actually end up with perfect perimeter support of this bowl.
Right.
So
now, because this manufacturer also supplies us with a template, the template would be cut in the countertop already, and then you would just set the countertop on, like you said, silicone this in all the way around, and then jack it up in place.
That is correct. This would be a finished cutout, a completely pre-finished cutout, obviously. And as you can see, this is designed to just match a little bit greater than the curve of the rim, which is a typical design.
Right, so it leaves a little bit of stainless showing.
And it gives you plenty of flange to still glue with.
Okay.
All good bowls will typically come with a manufacturer's template.
Right.
And that's an important detail. You want to make sure, again, that in this case, because it's a stamped bowl, much like a vitreous china bowl, that you manufacture the cutout to match their template. So if the customer's unhappy, their problem is with the manufacturer, not
What
with
if you didn't have a template? What would be a good way to actually try to make a template? This one would be difficult because these outside edges are not consistent with the inside.
Well, what you would do, or typically what we did, is we just merely place a piece of wood over this, and then put our arms up through here, put a pencil, and just trace it out.
Oh,
and then
okay.
we know we're just going to connect the apex of the bowl here, and in this case, in this case, a little bit different here. That's going to be kind of a straight line coming out of it.
Okay.
This one, you're going to have to try to follow this. But again, you'll get
Right.
darn close. Some guys use a flush trim bit. But again, the problem with that is you're not able to make sure that everything is consistent.
Right. Okay.
So that's a problem.
Now, that wouldn't be the only way you're going to be able to install a stainless steel sink, correct?
No, it isn't. It isn't. Briefly, usually what these are, and let me show you a kitchen bowl. When I was in fabrication full time, we always used to take those templates and make templates like this out of them, which the idea behind it was we could take this. This already was the setback that we wanted on a typical installation.
Okay.
So our guys could just find the center line. This right here was parallel to this. So they would just put this to their front edge, clamp down the corners. Once that was done, they just knew all they had to do was take and run the router around it. And there was
And this is for an undermount stainless?
That is correct. No, this was actually for a solid surface bowl. But
Okay,
the principle
so then
would be same for
okay,
a stainless.
so on the solid surface bowl, you would glue it in and then you would reroute it at that point, or
Yeah,
was this
you
for an
would ju-
overhang?
No, you would.
Okay.
You would do it exactly as you said. This cutout would actually be 1/4 of an inch overall smaller than the bowl itself.
Okay.
So an 1/8 inch on each wall, and then you glue your bowl to the underside, and then when you come back with your bowl bit, you're just trimming off that last 1/8 inch and putting your radius on.
Okay.
So a simple way to do it, and the same principle applies to stainless. We would take that template, we would put the setback right where we wanted it. That would be the front of our cutout. Keep the center line true, and then cut it, make the template to the rest of its.
And that would naturally leave you room for faucets and things like that. Okay, great.
So that's one simple way of doing it.
Now, just a quick question: are they making the cast iron bowls this irregular shape now as well?
They always have.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they have.
They've always had like a 60-40?
Well, I should say always have. They have of recent years.
Okay.
I
just remember seeing the big
big monster
50-50
rim
bowl.
job.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, and along that same portion line, there was like the Americast sink that came out, which wasn't a cast iron body. It was actually a polymer body that had glazing and porcelain over it.
Okay.
So there's a couple different variations of
Let's
that.
walk over here and let's look at a couple different possibilities for installing a sink like this when it's actually going to be installed to the countertop before it actually gets out to the job.
Okay.
Okay, what do we got here?
Well,
got some neat stuff. Let's kind of move these over where we can see them.
One of the most traditional ways is, and where's your little handy dandy? Here they are.
Yep.
Probably one of the most common ways is and John really, he knocked himself out here with this.
Yes, this is a custom depth gauge.
But one of the most common ways, and most of you fabricators will certainly remember this, is the use of the brass ferrules or anchors.
Right.
And typically, all you would do is something like that, and we'll just do one here for giggles. Okay. You would simply drill a hole.
There's a little tack hammer for you.
There you go. Yeah. Kind of like Carl, my old partner. He'd always, it's got to be big to be good. But you take and you tap those in like we did right there. Then you would simply have a clip.
Now, the way that these are designed is that I don't know if you can see this or not. This is pretty small, but there's a groove cut right in the edge of the insert of the grommet, and what happens is that when you tap it into a 1/4 inch hole, it actually squeezes. So when you go ahead and run the screw into it, it pushes it back out, and these little knurls or whatever you want to call them actually grip the side of the material and lock it in place.
That is correct.
So you run that down snug, and then you just tighten it up with your wing nut.
And you have to be really careful with this. A couple things that every fabricator had to be really careful with when using these is, one, you always wanted to make sure that you didn't drill all the way through the top, which John came up with this really ingenious method of preventing that, which all we did, we just, the way we did it is we used a hole saw with a mandrel. We had the hole saw cut off, exposing just the right amount of mandrel for drilling with.
Okay.
But this is the same process and a whole lot cheaper and simple than what we did. But you had to be careful of, one, going all the way through the top. The other thing, too, is you could always run the screw through if you weren't careful.
Oh, yeah,
and actually
definitely.
create a bruise on the other side.
Right.
Well, that drove people to coming up with another method. So here's one method, and we'll let John start doing this right here.
Okay.
And while he's doing that,
Now, do we have to clean this surface off?
Nah.
Okay. So what this is,
You
this
would
is
in real life want to, but
yeah, but this is a two-part epoxy, and essentially what you do is you just break this off like that, and then you go ahead and just push out equal amounts like that,
Do that
and
very well with your
then
hand.
nope, here we'll just do a little mix up like this. Now a lot of guys use joint adhesive to do this, and that's not a good idea. And it's not that we want to sell more of this, but it's just not a good idea because it's brittle, where this will take impact and flex.
Yeah.
So what you do is after you mix this up real good, you just put it into, well, now what are you doing? I was just going to mush it in there.
Now you want to take it because
Oh, come on. Why do you want to do that?
you're not going to mix that in 90 spots all around. You mix a big
Well,
puddle
no,
of
yeah,
that,
I know. You mix a big pile of it. Right, exactly.
and then you just take and you butter it on here. We didn't really mix enough, but there
Right.
you go.
But what's going to happen is you're going to put it on like that, and then this actually comes up. Reminds me of like the old Mattel,
Yep.
you know,
got it. Yep, I know.
where the Play-Doh comes out, you know. But it comes out like that, like a little extrusion, and then it mushrooms over, and then when this dries, it's permanent.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would go ahead and take one of these clips that comes with it, and your wing nut, and fasten it down,
Just like
much in the
this.
similar fashion as you do that.
Exactly. The difference here is, and John's 100% correct when he explains that the epoxy is what holds this in here. It's the little knurls on the ferrule that hold that down.
Right.
Well, those have all been wonderful methods to use, and something new came on the market last year, and it was actually
Oh,
called...
those are those things to build swing sets.
That's right. This is the old peel and stick. I say old, this is the old style here. Originally, the manufacturer came out with this style right here. They found out that they had some difficulties because where the stud went into the body, and I should really take this off so you can see it, where the stud went into the body in the back, there was little surface area to really hold it from pressure, and they tended to get some prying out
Right.
when there was a lot of pressure. So they switched over to this style. So what they did by putting the stud into the center plate, which obviously this manufacturer was aware of from the beginning, you spread the stress over a larger area, you got a better bond.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
And the way this works is...
Now, this one we do have to clean.
Yes, if
the
you have
area,
a little
right?
rag over there for
All
me.
right.
The idea behind this, and again, this is a great system, is what you would do.
Now, this used to have a primer that you had to break and put it on, but Ken informed me that that's no longer necessary. That's already old hat, and these things haven't even been out a year yet.
Yeah, it's the way things always work. The what you want to do is just clean the area really well where it's going to be applied with denatured alcohol. Now, if this were stone, and you can use these on stone or quartz.
You can use these on stone as well,
Correct.
and it's a different epoxy. Okay.
And so what you would do if this were stone, I would take a wire brush and just lightly scuff that area to make sure that there's nothing loose there and it still wash it off. Then once that's done, you just take this little backing here, and you can see, you just grab it and peel it up like that. Now, the great thing about these, as opposed to this style clip or this style, is once I get my bowl positioned right where I want it on the top, before I glue it down or anything, I can take these, butt this right up to the rim, and glue that down.
Now, how long does that take to set?
Between 5 and 10 minutes, it's going to be at 50% of its permanent strength. It's an acrylic adhesive. In about an hour, I'm going to have reached 90%.
Now, at 50%, could I go ahead and put a silicone bead on this, lay this down, and go ahead and snug it up?
Certainly, certainly. So anytime after
that's pretty
5
fast.
minutes, you can actually, what you're going to spend about that much time just getting these things on.
Okay.
And then by the time you get it off, clean the rim, and re-clean the area, you're probably going to be at about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Which is all the time to put these things on at all. But just to show everybody real quickly here what we're talking about, again, we just put this on. Or actually, here, let's use the right clip. I was amazed at this when Jim showed me this at the show. But, you know, this I just put on.
You want to go ahead and put that on the sink?
No, because I'm going to sit there and I'm going to show this. See this?
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm lifting up.
Well, you're lifting up. Wow. Holy smoke.
See that?
Okay.
And just even further drive the point home, I'll put this under there and watch this.
Holy crap!
Yeah, I just put it on and I totally bent the clip. That's little peel
That really
stick,
is instant.
that thing didn't come off.
Okay, very cool.
You know, destroyed the clip. So you can imagine if I wanted to glue that bowl down now, I could do it. It hasn't been 5 minutes,
right?
But that clip is going to give before that ever comes
Now,
up.
what would be nice with this too is in a situation where you have to put this in after the countertop's been put in and you're putting them in upside down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be great for that because it would certainly make the task easier. And I would use something like the Abaco sink bar.
Right.
I'm sorry, bowl bar where you can take and actually run it and pull the sink.
And we're actually going to have one of those here in a couple of weeks, but we're going to use it for a bowl removal tool.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to need to go to break in just a couple of minutes here as well. So what other methods are there for attaching these other than the old ways? I mean, it's just, is that about it?
Well, as far as doing an undermount sink, these are typically the 3 ways you would do. This is probably the most outmoded. This is certainly very viable in the market.
Oh yeah,
today.
no, those are great.
This is just something that's got to be looked at and dealt with because it's almost instantaneous. You can see the obvious holding power. It's a great system. Probably
But
the
you
fastest
wouldn't
system out.
use something like this to install, say, a cast iron sink.
Oh, some people might try.
Okay, but it's
But
not
if you
going to work.
use that with cast
Okay.
iron, this is what's going to happen right there.
Okay.
You may not pull this off, but boy, you're going to do that, and the
Okay.
bolt's just not. It's just too much weight.
All right.
The fastener's not designed to bear that kind of load.
Okay.
So again, I want to show one more sink real quickly, and I think we have time. Why don't you move this out of the way, and I'm going to go grab my other one. Just
Okay.
slide that off to the side.
All right. You know, by the way, I forgot to mention in the beginning of the show that our chat room is down. But if you wanted to call the studio tonight, you can dial 904. It's not down? The chat room is up? See, I'm the last to know all of this stuff. You know, never mind.
Never mind.
Never mind.
Actually, you know what? I think really they want to go to commercial now. We're pretty well at the end of this segment, and we
Okay.
can go into this in the third segment.
Okay, we can do that.
So anyway, I realize we're trying to cover a lot quickly. If you have a chance to go in the chat room, you can get there by doing. Thank you for your help.
You can instant message.
You can do a lot of things.
You can go into the chat room on the website. Whatever you want to do. If you have any questions. Okay.
Thank you.
So we're
You're
going to go to
helping
break. We'll be right back.
You're killing me.
This is called Strike
Okay.
Hold, and this was it cleans, lubricates, and protects, as it says. But it's an amazing product. I have never seen anything like this. I don't even think it's up on our website, but it will be tomorrow. It does everything. It's just amazing. It does everything. It cleans, it lubricates. We had the threads on our planer were rusted, and we had to open it up to 6 inches, which you normally wouldn't do. And we sprayed it down with this stuff, and in 10 minutes it had eaten through all the rust, and it worked just perfectly.
I know, just by way of, I do quite a bit of shooting, and I read that you could use this for guns.
Right.
And I sprayed it down the bore of one of my pistols, and I was amazed. It immediately cleaned the bore out.
Yeah. Unlike any other product, it actually goes through the water. Other products like PB Blaster and things like that, if you fill them in a cup of water, they lay on top of the surface and they do nothing. If you actually put this in, this goes through the water and will eat a styrofoam cup like that.
How long does this last, though? I'm curious.
It lasts for 5 months on a non-moving part. So it'll waterproof for 5 months, like an electrical connection or things like that. But if it's something that's moving all the time, you want to just keep spraying it on a regular basis to keep it protected. Now, what we're going to do is very simply, we're going to spray.
Oh, you're a chicken, is what you. We did this earlier.
Well, all you do is you spray the surface good, okay, like that, and then you spray anything that's going to be.
Let me get furniture out of the way. That won't take the finish off of her chair, will it?
Spray the light bulb too. All right. Now you screw the light bulb together, and I'm just going to show you a simple test of this. You're going to see a really neat demonstration of this when the manufacturer comes in. So we have this. All right. Now this is regular water here, just like nothing special about it. And we're actually going to take that and drop it in the water.
Are we going to go offset?
Okay. Look at that. Look at that. Can you believe that?
Can you stick your finger in that water? Go ahead.
But isn't that amazing? All right, so, and then you could just take it apart. Now look at this. Watch this. A little bit of water on there. Here we go. Ready? Ready?
Thought we were going to have an Alcatraz moment.
Look at that. I mean, can you believe that? I mean, that is absolutely amazing. So imagine like, you know, like let's say your car, you know, if you drive an old clunker or something, and every time it rains, it runs bad. Just spray down the spark plug wires, distributor cap, all of that stuff with this, and it'll protect it for 5 months.
Well, now, big
it's
thing,
amazing
and
stuff.
you and I had talked about this. For all of you guys that are field carpenters,
Right.
you know,
your
framers,
tool-
fidget
yeah,
guys, and
yeah.
all that, if you take and you think of your tools that rust, the chucks on your drill.
Yep. Just spray down everything in your toolbox with this stuff.
Router
Wipe it
bit
down.
shafts, saw blades.
Yep.
Once again, all your tools, all the contact points, everything that deteriorates from, especially humidity down here in Florida,
Absolutely.
all along the Gulf Coast. But you know, anybody involved in the marine industry,
amazing. It's just amazing.
carpenters, farmers.
If the lights go out, folks, you know what happens.
He couldn't leave well enough alone.
You know, I just wonder. You know, when we
Don't try this at home, by the way.
Right.
Not unless you have this.
when we yeah right. When we do this on our show, when we actually get into doing this, I think maybe we'll see if we can put some goldfish in that bowl, and then show that there's no electrical discharge at all. Wouldn't that be cool?
I think it'd be cool if you put your foot in a bucket of water.
Amazing, just amazing.